Most agency owners think that scaling their agency means doing more work for clients. More clients, more projects, more deliverables. But after working with over 40 agency owners now one-to-one, I can tell you that simply that's not the case. If anything, the agencies that have scaled or grown to the size they want to have done so when the owner is not doing client work. So they don't stop doing client work all at once. They do it gradually, they do it strategically, and they do it when they have got people and processes and other things in place to ensure that the agency can do the work without them. Because here's the truth, you cannot grow your agency to the size that you probably want it to be if you're still stuck doing client work as an owner. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to extract yourself from the agency when it makes sense to do so and in the right way, so that the business becomes stronger without you in it and you can focus on growing it to the shape and size you want it to become. So we're going to break this into two parts. The first part is going to be why you need to stop doing client work as the owner. The cost of you being involved as the owner in client work is not even really the time. It's the fact that you are the bottleneck to growth. You're going to burn out when you inevitably try and grow the business while also doing all the client work. And fundamentally, when that happens, the agency just plateaus. Because when it comes down to it, you are the one that is responsible for the agency growth. Unless you've got someone else who's a co-founder or a business partner, almost always it will come back to you, the owner, to grow the business. And if you don't have the time to even think about that, how's the agency going to grow? It'll be left up to chance. And even if you have really good people in your agency, there could still be this everlasting challenge of trying to figure out who's doing what or who's responsible for this and that. And fundamentally, that uncertainty just puts more strain and stress on the great people that you have on your team. So what we need is to put clarity around who's doing what and why you're not doing the client work and what that means for the other people on the team. And spoiler alert, I'm going to say it will only help them. It will not make their lives harder. It will not mean they have to do more work. It will just give them more certainty about what they have to do and why it can't be you that does it. So you need to extract yourself as the owner, but not in the way that most people think, which we'll get into in a second. The question is really not how you stop doing client work. It's how you stop doing client work without the agency falling apart. That is the most important piece of this puzzle. We're not just dropping everything and hoping that it is fine. We're going to put proper things in place to ensure that when you do stop doing client work, it's not just up in the air whether certain things get done or not. When it comes to actually then extracting yourself, what are we going to do about this? Because I've talked about the importance of doing it, but let's actually get into the how. So I really see this as almost like a 6 to 7 step process. There are key things that have to happen before, during and after an owner letting go of client work. And I'm going to start obviously with the stuff that in my mind should happen in advance of an owner even making any decision or move in relation to what they let go of and what they stop doing in their agency. So step 1, what is it that you are trying to build as an agency owner? What is it that you're trying to create as a business? What direction are you taking the agency in? This might seem almost so abstract and so far away from what we're talking about, but this is it. This is at the heart of the decision you're going to make relating to what role you play in your own business going forward. 2 examples. If your ambition is to build an agency that does 20 million plus in revenue and employs potentially up to 100 people at some point in time, if that's your ambition, great. Don't let me stop you. But the actions and the decisions that you take are going to be very different to those compared to someone who quite simply wants to have a couple of people helping them out as part of building a pretty efficient lifestyle agency, so to speak. Yes, both include bringing good people into the company, but the steps are very different. We're trying to create something very different as well, and that's really important. So first and foremost, number 1, decide what you're trying to build long-term for yourself as an agency owner. Once you have that figured out, the next question is, okay, well, what role do you really want to play in it? What part are you going to be responsible for as this agency grows? And yes, that might evolve in time, but what's the key role you really need to or want to play? For some owners, that's going to be sales and relationships and growth. For some owners, it might be more on the technical side. It depends on you as a person, what your strengths are, what your preferences are, and even what you're really not good at. So just to be clear, step 2 in this is figuring out what role you as the owner are going to play. And when you do that, step 3 then is going to be about identifying the gaps, the opportunities in the agency to even strengthen the business by bringing great people in or improving the system or processes in place that maybe you currently use yourself to run the agency or run parts of it. And as part of the 3rd step, this is where we can now look quite specifically at things like, how long does it take me currently to do certain things? These are the types of things that we can look at that will help us understand who we need and how much time we need from them. This can be time, it can be inputs. It's understanding what currently happens. And if you were to step out of the business tomorrow, where would the big gaps be? So you've given yourself clarity. You've started taking action in terms of understanding yourself, and as a consequence of you not doing client work, what would likely happen. Now, step 4 is really about deciding how you're going to plug these gaps or what you're going to bring into the business in terms of personnel or even maybe tools and software to help you operate and run it whenever you're not doing it all yourself. The likelihood here is that you are going to need at least a person, maybe 2, maybe 40 or 50 in time, who knows? It depends what you're up for and what you're not. But let's assume that you're going to bring at least a couple of good people into the business over the next 12 months because you want them to maybe do client management and account management, and then the other side you need support with implementation and delivery. Perfect. That makes complete sense. In most agency models, you've got support in 2 key areas where frankly you can't do it all anymore. So you need to get the right people in the right places doing the right things. And that brings me to step 5. It ties into the right things point. So you've identified what you're going to be doing and probably who you need to bring into the business, but what are they going to do? What processes are they going to follow? What system are they going to be following to deliver client work day in, day out? That is the next stage. It's defining explicitly what the agency does or the actions the agency and the people within it take on a recurring basis. This is now building out the system side of things. It's the piece that you've probably never had because it's all been up in here, but it's the piece that the owner will know like the back of their hand. So they have to get down on paper so that when they bring good people into the business, those people can lean on that to make sure they're doing the right things consistently. And of course, if you've got good people coming into the business, you're going to want their perspective on this stuff too. They might have some fantastic ideas about how to do things differently compared to how you were doing them, because let's be honest, although you're a great person and run a great business, you probably don't know some things as well as they might. That's the whole point. You're strengthening the business by bringing great people in to specialize in things that you were not a specialist in. Step 6 then is put a timeline around this. It has to be realistic. There's going to be a transition period. As discussed earlier, this is not an overnight thing. It would be reckless and really dangerous to just assume that we can just drop things as an owner and expect ours to pick them up. We want a plan put in place for how long it should take the owner to maybe do the first few steps themselves, but then how long we expect or want it to take to get the right people in the door, have them following the right system, and ultimately doing the right things to a certain standard day in, day out. And when I say time, this feasibly could take 3, 6, 12 months. If anything, I'd expect it to be closer to the latter, because this is a big shift, especially when it comes to even hiring. Bringing the right person in the door can take months. Even if you work with a recruiter and that goes really well, it's still going to take time. Plus, you need to see how they embed into the business, see how you work with them, etc. So these are not quick fixes. They're not quick changes that are going to have a huge immediate impact. You might see a little weight off your shoulders initially, but it's going to be a bedding in process. And that brings me to step 7, which is back to the owner, basically. We've come full circle. The reality here for them is that this is going to be a big mindset shift. This is going to be a huge change for an individual. Even if you've got a co-founder, for the two of you, it's going to be a really big change in terms of how you function. There's a lot of stuff you would have done on quite a casual basis before that you're not going to get away with anymore if you want to do this properly. So you've got great people, you've built a good system, they're doing the right things. It's on you now to let go. You've put a plan in place and it's been followed. The only last blocker that I could see preventing you from getting away from the client work and focusing on the growth of the agency is yourself at this stage. You've done everything you said you wanted to. Now it's a case of letting go and letting others do their thing for you. So just a few key reflections on those 7 steps. Getting out of the weeds as an owner, getting out of the client work, it's not as simple as just bringing someone into the business or starting to use a new shiny tool. It takes time, it takes planning, and it takes really good execution to make it happen. Done right, it's really going to help long term. It's going to help you create the space for yourself to build the agency that you want for yourself. Done wrong, and truthfully, it's going to hurt. If the owner can't let go, or if the owner doesn't find the right people, or if the owner doesn't take the time to put a system or processes in place, there are going to be key parts of this that aren't set up right, so that when the owner does let go of client work, it's going to get messy. And overall, the goal is not to abandon the work. It's not to abandon the client or the people or the agency so that you can do whatever you want on a Friday. It's so that you create a better business that's healthier and less reliant on you as an individual. Taking yourself out of client work, when it makes sense, gives you the chance to lead, gives you the chance to focus on growth, and ultimately it will result in clients being served to a higher standard more consistently. You didn't set this agency up to become a senior account manager for life. You set up the agency to help clients to an exceptional standard, and part of that is you becoming a leader, not just a doer. So we start with clarity for yourself in terms of what you're trying to build, clarity for yourself in terms of what you need to do towards that, and then we put actions and steps in place to make sure everything off the back of that is set up so that once you do move out of client delivery and client work, it runs smoother than ever. Now, if you're going to do this properly, it comes back to the first step. It's giving yourself clarity in terms of what you want, and then the visibility and where the gaps are going to be once you start making that move. The challenge of that, of course, is that sometimes it could be hard to know what to do based on things you can't see yourself. So that's where it can be helpful to get someone into the business to help you spot these gaps or talk through these potential scenarios. Beyond all that, when it comes to the systems and the processes that you put in place for the agency to run without you, you might want to check out this video. There's a few key systems I always recommend agencies have in place. You don't need to do everything at once, but if you start with those, it'll give you really good foundations, particularly when it comes to the owner stepping out of client delivery.